I'm traveling, so there's no background and worse lighting this week. I'm not apologizing, I'm just telling you. That's what's up. Hi, it's me, the senior in the high school drama club who was sure he had the role of Danny in the spring production of Grease in the bag, only for Miss Sherman to cast some sophomore who doesn't even have perfect pitch and stick me with Kanicki. I was robbed. So I think it goes without saying that the widespread accessibility of the internet has fundamentally changed how our society operates. For better or for worse, it's for worse. Personally, I think humanity should have ceased innovating around the time of the wheel, or at the very latest tech decks. One way the internet's changed our daily lives, arguably for the better though, is how it allows us to share moments with the world that could previously only be witnessed in person. Everything from a kid yodeling in Walmart, to police brutality and side to the topic of today's video, children's musical performances. While you'd probably look a little creepy going to see these live if you don't know a child in the show, with the advent of YouTube, you can watch a group of 14-year-olds struggle through a production of The Wizard of Oz to your heart's content.
Totally, Dorothy. Totally, Dorothy. I knew how polished you knew.
I personally love watching these videos of local children's theater productions, and not to make fun of them, mind you. Well, okay, a little to make fun of them, but you know, I feel I've shown you guys enough clips of my childhood theater performances to have earned that right. And having had those experiences of my own, I feel I'm able to see each of these performances for what it actually is, which is honestly a tiny miracle. I mean, how else would you describe being able to create even a half-cohesive production with such limited resources? Limited not just in terms of funding for props and costumes and things, but also in terms of talent? That's rude, that's rude. To be clear, this video isn't just gonna be me saying, look at how bad these children are at singing. Can you believe that these 10-year-olds fresh off their introduction to long division don't sound like Mariah Carey? Because they're not untalented, they're just kids and they're not professionally trained. But they still go for it despite that, before the self-awareness and cynicism of adulthood might have made them too embarrassed to do so. And I actually find that so deeply human and kind of beautiful. Also, there are occasionally kids in these productions that are seriously talented performers already.
Why is my reflection someone I don't know?
But let's not talk about them too much because, let's be real, I'm sure those kids' egos are big enough as it is. Still leaves a lot to make fun of about these videos though. For instance, you know how Hollywood is often criticized for whitewashing characters that aren't Caucasian in their original source material? And that's usually pretty reasonable, I'd say, because representation is important and big movie studios have pretty much every working actor at their disposal to choose from. The directors of these school productions, however, are working with a much more limited pool of actors. So it's not uncommon to see a white Mulan, a white Aladdin.
I did not darken my skin, but still it feels weird in hindsight.
And even a little white kid as Sebastian in The Little Mermaid doing an attempt at a Jamaican accent.
Why? Would you like to see? She's a clever mermaid. I'm just a crustacean. Surely you ought to pick someone higher on the evolutionary ladder.
Where was the woke mob when this happened, huh? Cancel that kid.
I've made a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment.
This issue is especially evident when they do shows like Hairspray, which is literally about racial segregation, even when, to put it bluntly, they don't have enough black kids in the cast to do so.
Not bad for a white girl.
Said the most Caucasian child I've ever seen, second only to myself.
Hashtag swag!
Perhaps most egregious of all, though, are productions like High School Musical, where what are clearly theater kids have to pretend to be jocks.
Oh yes, my brothers, it will be a happy Wildcat New Year, because this Friday we play the league championship game.
But then again, isn't the message of High School Musical that you could be both? Another pattern I've noticed in some of these is that they'll have the whole cast on stage the whole time, and have them participate in numbers that the ensemble doesn't in the professional versions of these musicals performed by adults.
Mr. Aladdin, sir, what will your pleasure be? Let me take your order.
Jot it down, you ain't never asked, and let me know.
And you know, normally I don't agree with the sort of boomer criticisms of younger generations for needing all kids to feel included and giving out participation trophies. But I think this is one scenario where I agree that they're being overly inclusive. Like, you can clearly tell the kids get bored just sitting there the whole time, and it takes me out of it. Now, you may have noticed it's pretty common for these productions to be based on Disney movies. And you know, recent criticisms aside, I consider a lot of like the animated Disney musicals to be cinematic classics that contain so many iconic moments.
Long live the king.
And it is so funny to see these productions try and recreate those iconic moments with varying results.
Long live the king.
Like, one of my personal favorite moments in the original Lion King movie is where adult Simba appears for the first time, coming in with that, "It means no worries for the rest of your days." And on stage, that's the moment where they swap out the actor for young Simba with the one for adult Simba. But most of these productions struggle nailing that moment in particular because the two actors are never that far apart in age.
Hakuna Matata, Hakuna Matata, Hakuna Matata, Hakuna Matata, Hakuna Matata.
It means no worries for the rest of your day.
Wow, the crowd really loved that one. Adult Simba's whole family must have been in the audience that night. A similar thing happens with Shrek the Musical. There's one number that's supposed to have 3 different actors play Princess Fiona at different ages. But in a lot of these high school productions, it's just 3 high schoolers. I mean, at least they're different heights. Also, sorry, back to the Lion King. The costumes on those ones are always really interesting because they have to like convey all the different animals, but with things that kids can actually wear. I mean, Pumbaa looking like an obese Goku and Timon having humongous thighs for some reason, which he doesn't in the movie, but in multiple of these productions for some reason, the costume looks like Squidward after he ate all those Krabby Patties.
When the world turns its back on you, you turn your back on the world.
It's my headcanon that the girl playing Timon here was gunning for the role of Nala, but that went to like her arch rival, leaving her with Timon and having to wear this turkey leg looking ass costume. Moving away from Disney, let's talk about West Side Story, which, if you don't know, is a musical retelling of Romeo and Juliet set in the 1950s, dealing with a feud between Puerto Rican and white street gangs. It deals with themes of racial prejudice, gun violence, and even SA. With so many adult themes, it would be crazy to do a children's production of this show, right?
When you're a jet, all the way from your first cigarette to your last dying day.
I bet the principal urged the drama teacher to do Beauty and the Beast instead, but since college, directing a production of West Side Story had been their dream, and they were not gonna let the fact that they only had 10-year-olds to work with stop them. Hey, just be glad she didn't go with Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
A sex change operation got botched.
That would have been a Fox News story within the week. But this middle school West Side Story is like my new favorite thing to watch. It's funny, while naturally they changed a lot of the lyrics that would have been inappropriate for literal children to sing.
My parents treat me rough with all their marijuana. They won't give me a puff.
With all their stinkin' drama, they give me so much guff.
They still had the kids pretend to stab and shoot each other. And they even included the attempted SA scene. Like, you can't really tell what's happening from the way it's choreographed, but they still do it. I feel weird even saying that, but I'm just giving you the facts. Also, as I mentioned before, these middle school shows pretty much are forced to do racially blind casting. So in this, since we can't differentiate the Jets from the Sharks based on ethnicity like we're supposed to, they had the Sharks dress colorful while the Jets wear all white. But did they change any of the dialogue referencing race? Of course not.
Pitiful what you Puerto Ricans have done to this neighborhood.
As funny as it is to see kids performing this material, I don't think there's any real harm in them being exposed to these themes, and it seems like they had an overall fun time. And really that goes for all these performances. As funny and messy as they are, if they were anything like my theater experiences, I'm sure they were fun and good for the kids, and that's all that really matters. That's it for today. Hope you're all cool with me continuing on my shorter videos arc. Because, 5 minutes to places, please. Thank you, 5. That's all I have time for. Has anyone seen my claws? The seaweed is always greener in somebody else's lake. It deals with themes of racial prejudice. Racial prejudice. I have racial prejudice. If you're named Rachel, fuck you.